Hello, everyone. Welcome to our May series of webinars by the Shoonya Space. We are trying to come up with a series every month so that there's a flow to the month and there is a connectivity with every week that we meet. The topic that we have chosen for this month, of course, went through a poll. And thank you for choosing this topic. It is, how do you handle difficult emotions? How can we handle it better? And I would like to talk about why is it that we chose to speak about this in this series or this month, or the context of this entire webinar series for the month. So I'm sure all of you in your healing journey till now understand the importance of emotions and understand the importance of why is it that we need to process our emotions and heal them, right? Through my personal experience, I can say that even though I knew the importance of understanding and processing emotions, there were certain difficult emotions which I still felt scared to look at and to process. And that was limiting not only my experience of life, but that was also limiting my response to people who came with those emotions. For example, because I could not, for example, process my own guilt or my own regret, it was difficult for me to handle and respond to people in my life who came from a space of guilt. And hence, I would also react to them. Is that making sense? So, when we process difficult emotions for our own selves, of course, we are doing a lot of good for our own selves, but we are also doing a lot of good and creating a very good environment for people who come with such difficult emotions in our lives. So we can respond to them in a better way and we can help them through that difficult emotion also. So the context of this series is not only looking, of course, the focus is to see how it can help you and how you can process these difficult emotions for yourselves. What are the layers to it? How can you go about doing it? And yet, that said, maybe we will only touch the tip of the iceberg of all these difficult emotions. But this will not only start the path for your own self-healing journey, but it will also start setting an atmosphere for people in your life who are dealing with such difficult emotions. So you now know how can you respond to a person who is coming from a space of guilt, who's coming from a space of anger, who's coming from a space of regret, because you have done it for your own self. And this I'm talking through the experience that I have had in my own life. So that is the context of this series. And hence we are looking at specific difficult emotions which are there in our day-to-day life. All of us go through it. Yeah. Am I right, Gayatri? Is there something that you would want to add? Is there something that I missed out of what we discussed?
I would just say one thing here, that when you're saying, yeah, am I audible? So when you say that, uh, you are not able to handle those other people's emotions because you are coming from the same place. What we mean here is we are reacting because that's the energy we are also in. And when we look at our own emotions and we allow them to show up, sit and feel them, that's when we know a way through it instead of just avoiding it. Because many times when we find that people who trigger this guilt in us or this anger in us or whatever emotion, because they are also in the same emotion. One of the ways people take is avoid such people, right? Go on no talking terms, change the environment, or try to fix them. So the real issue is not looked at, and we keep on going round and round around that feeling, most of the times, even without recognizing what is happening to us. But when we look at these emotions, the key to our freedom is within. We all know this particular thought process now. How to do that? So from there we thought of talking about emotions. How to do what we already know what to do. Yeah, Priya.
Yeah. So, yes, that is the context from where we would like you to listen and participate and be a part of these series. For those who are watching our videos on YouTube, I would like to say that there's a lot of discussion that happens even after these recorded sessions. So please try and be a part of the series. That's something that I would like to invite. Yeah, Gayatri, if you can start with what we want to talk about today.
Right. So today we thought of talking about guilt. Yeah. So we are going to touch on 5 different emotions, and we are sure that when we talk about these emotions, you can apply the same method for other difficult emotions that you may identify. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for that. So guilt is an emotion which often makes us feel that when something bad happens to us, we deserve it, right? For example, I made a mistake in the past, and the moment I realize that I made a mistake, I might feel guilt. I might feel regret that, oh, I did something wrong. And when I'm not able to forgive myself for that, I start beating myself. Yeah. And now, when I keep on beating myself, if something wrong happens to me because of that wrong thing that I did, I feel yes, I deserve it. Like somebody who didn't study well for the exams, and the moment they realize while writing the exam that no, I didn't study well, and now my score is going to get impacted because of that. So, in the next process of admission for their course, even if they don't get the seat in exactly the way they wanted in a particular institute, and they may get seat in some similar institute, they'll keep on beating that, oh, I deserve this. I can't get the best because I made the mistake. So, on the other hand, guilt is a sign that we have a conscience. Usually, the self journey begins when we are able to look at what we did wrong, not like a blame to ourselves, but taking the responsibility of my part in my journey or in my suffering, in my pain, right? So, guilt is a sign that I'm aware about what I did wrong. That's a very positive sign because the absence of guilt might indicate, might, I'm saying, that I'm not even aware what I did wrong. And I'm only blaming other people or situations for my pain. But when I look at my mistake, I have a choice. And feeling the guilt is the most obvious choice that comes to us because now it is done and dusted. The impact is there. I'm living in the impact. I can't go and change the past. That's why we feel guilty, right? And guilt will make us feel that whatever wrong happens as a consequence of a mistake, we deserve all of that. And this is a very, very important and crucial part about feeling guilty that we all need to recognize. That guilt is an emotion for which a person may not even want to reach to take help, because whatever wrong is happening to them, they feel they deserve it. It is all their fault. So, somebody who's dealing with lots of guilt may not even think of taking help to come out of the guilt. So, guilt is an emotion which will hinder its own solution. Yeah. But if we flip it, as I'm saying, that any situation uh, that is making me feel any difficult emotion, I can only take care of how I feel. I can't change people, I can't change or control situations all the time. So, how do I flip the emotion of guilt? So, opposite of guilt is some learning or some wisdom. If I made a mistake and now I'm living in the impact of my choices or my mistake, that's fine, that part is done. But I can learn from my mistake. This person who didn't study well can sit with himself and ask, what made me not study well? Was it overconfidence? Or was it that I was ignorant? So once he sits and does that self introspection, what will happen? The gaps which were not visible earlier will become visible to that person, and he can do something about that. So when we make a mistake, which we are bound to make, watch what feels right today. With more awareness, tomorrow this might feel little wrong. Or if this gives me a negative outcome, this will surely feel wrong in future, right? Or in a bigger picture, we can't always see things correctly. So we are under the impact of our emotions and thoughts, and from there we react or we make certain choices which we later on realize that they were not the most appropriate choice. So we are bound to do that because we all are human beings. But when we make a mistake, the moment we recognize it, what I want you to do is catch yourself if you're going into guilt. Because self pity or beating yourself will make you feel that you are at least, you are a good human being, but it won't help you anywhere. And then if you catch yourself, the next question that you can ask yourself is, what can I learn from this? So this will require little bit of sitting with yourself and asking certain kind of questions. For example, I said, if this person goes back and asks what didn't allow me to study properly. So you can go back and you can ask yourself how I was feeling when I did that, I said that, or I didn't do that. What was behind this? Is there a pattern behind such kind of behavior? So with such kind of inquiries, you will start catching yourself. Now, here is a catch. Of course, we are going to do a guided process because we don't only want to give you some strategy and do that, but we are also wanting to teach you a process through which you can at least one part of your life where you can go back and release that emotion. But when we are saying all of this, our request is that don't take this as the final stop for working with your emotions, because the difficult emotions require personalized work with somebody else. Because when I am in the water, I can't see the bigger picture. I'm struggling with my own emotion. No matter how much ever knowledge I have, I can't apply it to my own self. So sitting with your therapist will always help you. But we want to give you certain ways where you can sort your emotional responses better, understand what happens. And with guilt, usually we have said this before this also, that whenever we experience a painful emotion and we can't do anything about it, mind tends to conclude things either about the self, about people, about world or life, and they are usually painful conclusions. And to cope up with that, mind has a way to create a coping mechanism of behavioral change. And many people we have seen our practice in our practice that they think that the coping mechanism that they have developed is the learning. Like they trusted somebody and that person betrayed them. Now they have decided, I will never trust anybody. And they think, yeah, this is the learning. This is the learning. No, that may not be the learning. That is a limiting impact of your coping mechanism to save yourself from the betrayal in future. The learning could be, of course, everybody will have their own unique learning, but just to give you an example, the learning could be, I will not trust somebody blindly. Did I trust blindly? Maybe. So I will not trust somebody blindly, or I will follow my intuition. Anything that fits for that person. So learning is something that you will have to identify in the place of guilt, and do not take your conclusion and your coping mechanism as your learning. That is not the learning. That is mind's mechanism, way to protect you from that pain in future. These two are different things. Am I right, Priya? Do you want to add anything over here?
I think it's a very good flow. One thing which I read today, and I liked it, so I would like to share that, is guilt, shame, regret. These are of the same texture. So you're shameful of a way of being, and you're guilty about an act, and you regret both of it. Regret the situation. So these are kind of, they have the same texture, and usually it is difficult, like Gayatri said, that a person who has such emotions, it's difficult for them to come out and talk about it and seek help. So first step as to identifying itself will bring in a lot of relief. Then what has to be done, that comes later, and that will happen in steps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a
So,
good practice. It's a good practice to be aware.
yeah, yeah. And as Priya said, the guilt might show up in any particular form. You may be ashamed of something that you did or didn't do, or you might be just regretting and you don't identify guilt per se. Like in my case, I remember when Priya is sharing, I used to feel I never had guilt as such, and in one of my sessions some other texture of guilt showed up as shame, and that's when I realized this is even a deeper layer, and then I could work on it. So sit with yourself, identify in whichever form you identify this emotion, and if you know any conscious memory for which any conscious memory of your choice where you feel guilty about it, today we are going to work on that.
Gayatri, I have one more thing to add.
Yeah.
So, unlike the other emotions like anger or sadness, which you experience when the situation is happening, guilt is an emotion or shame is an emotion which kicks in after the situation has happened. So, think of any situation that you might be guilty or ashamed about. While going through that, I'm sure you have not experienced shame or guilt. You wouldn't have done it otherwise, or you wouldn't have been in that frame. It's on an afterthought Because someone has said that it is wrong, or you have concluded that it is wrong, or not appropriate, or it is something to be shameful about, or it has gone the wrong way, that you feel guilty or ashamed about.
Yeah.
I would like to give a small example which my son taught me. So I had gone for his parent teacher meeting and I was checking his papers. And I said, "Why you know the answer to this? Why have you written it wrong?" So he said, "While writing it, I didn't know it was wrong. I thought it was right." So that's the texture. When we are doing it, we don't realize, but it's on an afterthought that we start feeling guilty. So that is the moment that Gayatri is saying that check. Like that's the time that you need to check. That's where the learning comes. That's the moment. Than slipping into guilt that I'm wrong and I did wrong, or I should have done better, or I'm so, I'm not good enough, or I'm so ashamed. That's one track. The other track is, oh, what happened at that moment that I did something. So that's the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a practical learning from me, from my
True.
son.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gayatri, we had to go through the guided process also.
Right. So shall we start with that? Yeah. So if you have identified any such situation where you feel that you are guilty, or you are ashamed of something, or you're regretting any of your choice, just recall that incident to yourself. You don't have to share anything with anybody. But then once you recall, just keep everything aside and take a comfortable position. And close your eyes. Take a deep breath and just start observing your body. Any particular sensations in your body, whether pleasant or painful, just become aware of them. And now think about this particular choice, your actions or your thoughts about which you feel guilty. Maybe you will start recalling an incident when this happened, and in afterthought, the moment when you realized that what you did was wrong. Whatever comes to your mind, just stay with it. And as you look at that incident from this moment, it is as though you're watching your life story from a distance. And in that story, this particular scene has unfolded. And that younger part of you who is feeling guilty is thinking about what he or she did or said and regretting that. And as you watch it, just become aware of what is the thought in that moment. What have you concluded in that moment? Either about yourself or about the situation, people, life. The conclusions often are the statements such as I am so and so, or I am not so and so, or they are so and so, or they are not so and so, or life is so and so, or not so and so. And with that conclusion, the pain that you are experiencing, the pain of you making a wrong choice, you making a mistake, which makes you feel guilty or ashamed of yourself. What have you decided to cope up with all of this? You might have said, I will never ever, or I will always do this, not do that, or now onwards I will have to. Whatever comes to you, just stay with it. And now, if you are able to identify this conclusion and this behavioral change that you made with this decision, connect to the feeling of guilt. You may even get flashes of how your behavioral change has impacted your life. And with that, as you feel the guilt, what is happening in your body? What is the sensation in your body? That's where your body must have stored the guilt. And even if you are watching all of this from a distance, for that younger part of you, you might sense that in your body at this moment. Are you ready to release it? Are you willing to free yourself from this? Not just from this guilt, but the impact of your decisions. So place your hand on that part of your body where you sense that your body has stored the guilt. And whatever feels right, either tapping that part of your body or rubbing it gently, start breathing out through your mouth. And keep releasing this guilt back to that situation or wherever it belongs. If it belongs to somebody else, no, they said something to make you feel guilty, and you feel that this guilt belongs to them, just return it to them. As you release it from your body, it will flow it towards its source. Take one deep breath and exhaling it one more time through your mouth, releasing any remaining residues of guilt from your body and from your system. Just release it. Let that go. And as you have released the guilt, now you will become aware of what did you lose of your own, which was a resource for you probably. Something that authentically belonged to you, which you lost in that moment of guilt. And once you identify that, you will be able to locate it somewhere around you, in that situation, in that moment, from where you may intend to take it back. Your own authentic energy, your own part of consciousness. And as it comes back, just become aware of what is it. And with that, get a sense of where in your body it is coming back. Can you sense it in your body? Maybe you may place your hand wherever it is coming and anchor that feeling, that part of your consciousness. Let it grow, let it become part of you. And as you do that, I'm sure you must be feeling clear headed because the grip of guilt has either gone away or has reduced. And with this clear headedness, connect to your internal place of wisdom and check what is the learning for you about that choice that you made. What was the lesson for you there? Once you get your learning, if it is the wisdom, it will make you feel even more free. So sit with whatever comes to you and see how you feel as you get this learning. Can you take this learning and move on with your life and live with this learning now? Apply it and create a different reality for yourself. Create a different experience for yourself. And with this, connecting to that internal resource that you got back, part of your consciousness that you got back, keeping in touch with it. Start breathing in your body of this moment, slowly becoming aware of your surroundings. Bring back your focus to this moment. Rub your palms each other. Rub them on your eyes or any other part of your body. Slowly and gently. You may please open your eyes and come back in the here and now. Rucha and Ishani, if you have opened your eye, just give us the indication if you are not keeping your videos on. Congratulations, all of you, for creating this for yourself. Got that, Ishani? Got that, Rucha? Thank you. And before we complete this process and you people start sharing, I would want you to make either mental note about what you got or physical note, and do share it. Do share it either with us or with your therapist, because if there are any corners those are not touched and looked at properly, we would want you to revisit and complete it so that it really gets completed for you. Yeah, because as I said, what you got as a learning, if what if that is not a learning and it's still coming from your critical mind and it is part of a conclusion, then you should be aware of it. Yeah. So thank you so much. Shall we start with the discussion? I'll stop the recording.